RCR on the Superstation. CJOB 68.
Mark Chipman is with us. We'll tell you the story of the Winnipeg Jets coming home. But I thought we'd spend a few minutes talking about not one of your favorite subjects, you. You are known as very shy, and I really appreciate you coming in and opening up a little bit of yourself here. But tell us about your family, because I don't know you very well, but I know you well enough that family is important to you. Faith is very important to you. And growing up very early on in life, what was instilled in you was not only to work hard and make wise choices in life, but also to give back to your community. Talk about that.
Okay. Well, I, was and continue to be, blessed to be a part of a great family. My mother and father are wonderful people. We lost my mom back in 2005, and that was a huge blow to our family. She was kind of the glue. My dad, phenomenal guy, very hardworking, grew up in Winnipeg and spent a lot of his youth in Kenora as well, but really, the sort of quintessential self-made guy.
What was the family business at that point?
He started off in the finance business, moved the family around, but from Winnipeg to Sault Ste. Marie, where one of my brothers was born, and Belleville, and then back to Winnipeg. 1960, he went to work with his father, and then went out on his own. I think early 60s. Was in a number, had a gravel pit, used car lot, ran the miniature putting arcade at the Red River X, did all kinds of stuff to sort of, make things go, and then got a break in 63 with a partner of his, and got into the General Motors business at that time, and kind of leveraged everything he'd earned up until that point of time. So, my dad was just a guy who, worked very, very hard, and wasn't, was at work a lot, but always sort of felt his presence,
You and the family, though, had to prove yourself, though, as well. It was not a matter of just being, born into this, and there was all sorts of opportunities for you. You had to prove yourself.
Well, I think most people do. My dad was, and both my parents came from very modest upbringings, and so there was no reason for them to raise my brothers and my sister and I any other way. So, I also had the benefit of being the youngest, and having the example of my older siblings who, did well at what they did. My oldest brother Steve is, he's a lot older than I am, by the way. Notwithstanding that haircut he features, he was a really good student and did very well in high school. And my brother Jeff was both of them were good athletes. My brother Jeff was a great football player and basketball player. So and my sister's always excelled at everything she did. So I had these examples to follow, which, that coupled with just the sort of unspoken expectations that you feel from your parents, I think most people do, it made for a good environment.
Competitive, though, with your siblings?
Yeah, but in a good way, I was always younger, as I said, and so, we would compete at just about every conceivable game, or games that you'd make up, I think, which was a lot more common back then, whatever the game was. But yeah, we were competitive.
At 15, there was a choice for you. You were playing sports, and ultimately a choice was made for you between sports. Tell us about that.
It was just one of those things. I was trying to play every sport I could, and it wasn't working out for me. Struggling in school and those kinds of things, and so my dad wisely made a decision for me. I was trying to play high school football and hockey at the same time, and I wish I'd have been a better hockey player than I was. My dad was, he's he's a candid guy, and he could see that there wasn't a lot of future for me playing hockey, and so he wisely decreed the end of my hockey career at 15 and allowed me to focus on just playing football, and that worked out fine for me.
Any regrets?
None at all. I would say to you, I got really fortunate to go to school in the States and play some football down there, and
tell us about that. Tell us about going to school in the States.
Well, I mean, it's not a very glamorous story. I walked on. I didn't have a scholarship. I walked on, and
where?
At the University of North Dakota, and there were a lot of guys from Winnipeg playing down there at the time. A lot of them went on to have very significant CFL careers. Stan Mikwas and Milson Jones and others that I got to play with down there, and it was a fantastic experience. I didn't play a lot. I hung around, sort of stuck around like a bad rash for 4 years. I just, it was something I loved to do, and so I stuck with it. But I didn't get, it wasn't ever going to be a career. I had a very brief stint with football club here. Like, when I say brief, I mean one game, and it was very obvious. I was over my head at that time as well, but I had a fantastic experience down there. I met my wife, which was probably the most important thing that ever happened to me.
I know family is very important to you, and our relationship has always been usually at the hockey rink when you were coaching. You get a chance still to coach, or is life just a little bit too busy right now?
Regrettably, I'm not coaching this year. I think, the past 10 or 11 years, and I'm going to miss it, I'm sure. I don't miss it right now because this time of year is tough. I'm sort of observing it now. I still have a couple kids playing, but, it's the tryout time frame for hockey. I feel sorry for parents. It's an anxious time, and for kids and parents. So I don't miss it at the moment when those teams are being selected and that process goes on in rinks across the city. But I'll miss it, once the season's underway, for sure.
Remember your first Jets game?
Yeah, I do. It was a WHA game. I remember it very well. I remember the other game I really remember was the 72 Canada-Russia series. That was a real treat.
The tie here.
The 4-all tie, yeah. I went to that game with my brother, and I don't think I understood back then the significance of that. I was only 12 at the time, or just turning 12, I think, and I don't think I understood the significance of that series back then.
At what point did you say to yourself that one day I want to own or be part of the ownership of a hockey club? How do we get to that part of the story?
Well, it was just it literally just morphed out of the involvement in trying to keep the Jets here. The group that was organized to build the arena, it was a very, very large group from across the community, and our family was asked to contribute and to have and select somebody from our family to work on it, and that happened to be me because I was, very passionate about the Jets at the time, and so it just morphed out of that when we tried our best to keep the team here in '96, and obviously we were unsuccessful, but through that process I got to meet the people who owned the team in Minnesota, who had an affiliation with the Jets at the time. And recall the Jets were supposed to go to Minnesota when Burke and Gluckstern bought the team. Their plan was to move it to Minnesota, but they couldn't get an arena built, so it was sort of a last minute move to go to Phoenix. And because they were going to Minnesota, it was logical that we would take the team that was in Minnesota and bring them here. And so that's how I got involved.
The Manitoba Moose, what a great legacy. We'll talk about that. And then what has happened to lead the Winnipeg Jets to return to our fair city. Mark Chipman is our very special guest on CJOB 68.